Welcome to Spotlight, where each week a guest takes center stage for an intuitive tarot reading. You'll get a front row seat to a real recorded session as we explore the magic of tarot together. My goal is to create a space where we navigate challenges, uncover fresh perspectives, and reconnect with inner wisdom, giving you a glimpse into what it's like to receive a reading with me. Interested in being a Spotlight guest? Just fill out the application below and I'll be in touch about getting you on. Now, without further ado, let's meet this week's guest. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Spirit Journey Collective. I have a really great guest today. His name is Jason, the Dyceman Moore. I'm so happy to have you here today to experience a reading. Thank you for being here today, Jason.
Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
Same. Yeah, absolutely. So I know we talked a little bit pre-recording. You wanted to just see what comes through. We're not going to put any kind of focus point on your reading. So while I shuffle, why don't you just share a little bit about you and your thoughts or experiences of tarot so far?
As Sarah already said, my name is Jason Moore, Jason the Dyceman Moore. I'm an entrepreneur. I've got a relatively new business. I've been running for about a year. Fellow podcaster. I have multitude of interests: calligraphy, reading, collecting first editions, collecting watches. Multifaceted. Love to podcast, love to share. My core focus is relationships, platonic relationships, helping people, because I can look at it from outside of the relationship. I like to use that to help people understand where they're going. Maybe I can suggest or help running through other scenarios, so there's not so many arguments. Maybe save a relationship or two along the way.
I love that. And then what is your experience with tarot, if any?
I've seen lots of people do it. I'm sort of a skeptic. I believe that there are people who can do it, but I believe most are, pardon me for saying so, full of crap. But I believe that the people who do it for real do it for heart.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know what you mean by that. It's interesting because my thought process, but I'm in this world, right? So it's a little different. I
Mhm.
think that most intuitives are doing it from the place of I want to help people. And I think the smaller percentage is the ones that are full of crap. But
Right.
it is something to be careful of. Especially the ones I really recommend looking out for are those that literally say, oh, I'm right all the time. And if I say that, or if they're trying to push something onto you, like, oh, well, this says that this is going to happen. So, you know what I mean? Versus like,
Right.
I don't believe anything's set in stone. And I do believe that people who tap into certain futures are tapping into a certain timeline, so to speak, where it is a potential, but it's always a potential. And if someone wants you to tell them like, oh yeah, you're going to meet the love of your life at 2 p.m. on a Thursday in January at a train station, like, I'm not saying that that's not going to happen, but that those absolute specifics are usually like red flags to me to that degree.
Especially when the person said, "But I can't be there because at 2 o'clock on that day, I'm scheduled to fly somewhere else in the country."
Right.
It's a few bad apples that make the bunch look bad.
Exactly. But,
Yeah.
to be fair, that's also in every field too, which is
Yes.
what I also like to point out. But yeah, so this is an interesting reading, kind of doing the bird's eye view. It definitely feels like there's going to be some heavy points, but I always believe that all cards are medicine, so everything comes up for the greater good, right? It's always coming up for us, not to us.
What do you
Um,
mean by heavy points?
Sometimes heavy means more emotional or more traumatic.
Okay.
In this case, it's more like something like I feel like there's some toxic elements that are trying to come to your attention, which could be like in the form of limiting beliefs, or it could be in the form of something that's just got to go. But that's what I mean. But we'll get to it. Some readings energetically they feel very positive,
Mhm.
and then some readings energetically, I don't want to say they feel negative, but they feel challenging. And I guess that's what I would mean by heavy is it's leaning a little bit more in
Okay.
the challenging than the positive. Yeah, thank you for asking me that though, because I was like, wait, hold on. How do I describe this? Okay, so I'm gonna go over a theme, past, present, future energies, and then higher self messages. Feel free to comment as I go, or if you have questions, you can also ask questions. Like don't be afraid to interrupt me. So your theme is the Ten of Swords. So I really like this theme for a couple of reasons.
this is one of the more, could be referred to as heavier. I mean, I love this picture because sometimes the pictures in this particular card is a person with 10 swords in them,
Mhm.
like on the ground, which that looks kind of like, oh my God. This one is, it doesn't have that look to it.
Right.
And I like this because this really emulates what it means a little bit better, which is the Ten of Swords is about evolution. It's about going beyond a belief system that you carried for a very long time. And so the sword suit in general is all about the mind. It's all about the stories, the narratives, the lens, the way that we see things. And so the Ten of Swords is basically it's coming to an end, like some kind of limiting belief, some kind of narrative that you've been telling yourself has basically reached its limit. And so I like to compare this card to a snake because when a snake grows, it has no choice but to shed its skin.
Right.
It really doesn't have a choice. The skin is coming off. And sometimes it sheds perfectly. Like you have like a full other little snake shape based off their skin.
Right.
And sometimes it needs help. Sometimes the skin gets stuck on the way off. And you
Mhm.
need to kind of help it take it off because it's not coming off as easily. And so I love this isn't reversed because I'm not feeling resistance around it, but it is saying that there are belief systems that you've carried probably for most of your life, because that's how belief systems usually work, that you're starting to realize aren't really serving you anymore. They've been there for a while, and now you're like, this doesn't feel right anymore. So it's peeling off, and so it's just saying that you're at this point you're in this stage of your life where you're letting things go that just you're starting to see this doesn't this belief, this narrative, this view that I've carried for a very long time, it's no longer serving me. So I'm going to just let it go. And so that's the evolution and the growth piece. But be mindful if you do start to notice anything getting stuck. That's kind of the flip side of it is just watch for anything that's stuck because that's going to need a little more help to peel it off. So that's the theme, and we'll get to the present in a second, but I can definitely see that there's a lot of growth happening in your life right now. So you're just in the space where you're allowing it to happen is what I'm feeling like you're going through a growth spurt, so you're just leaning into that.
In answer to that, I will tell
Mm-hmm.
you, for the last many years, I've been on continual growth. I don't limit anything. If something's going to come in and change, I don't fight it,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a relationship or a belief system or where I live. If something has to change, I'm now open-minded enough to just let it be what it's going to be. Fits perfectly. Yeah.
So looking at your recent past, or this could be, I want to say recent, it could be the last few months, it could be the last like 1 to 2 years, but like that's kind of like the recent time frame. We have the
Okay.
Eight of Swords. And so this one does speak to that somewhat in the recent past, you were really struggling with, I don't know if it was a certain area in your life, or just as a whole, but you were feeling kind of trapped, like your hands were tied, like you didn't really know how to move forward in something.
Mm.
And so when it comes to the Eight of Swords, it's the whole idea, because again, coming back to the swords being about the mind, it's when you feel trapped, but you're not actually trapped. It's when you're thinking there's only one way forward and you're like, crap, that door's blocked. Like, how am I going to get out? And then realizing that, oh, there's an open window right next to it, but I'm not seeing the open window because I'm so locked in on the door. And so it's a mind thing. It's about realizing like you're not actually trapped. There's several ways forward. You look at the bird's eye view and you're like, oh, wait, I thought there was just one way. I could see 20 different routes to get where I want to go and to get through what I'm going through. So in the past, there was a time where you really had to kind of like release those chains of your mind that were basically trying to tell you this is how you do things, and if you can't do it this way then you're stuck, and realizing wait, no, I'm realizing that that's actually not true. And so that's the space you're coming from. And then again, the theme now is like, and I don't know if they're speaking to each other or if they're just separate instances, but that that do blend but are separate. But I'm definitely feeling like before it was this idea of oh, I'm trapped, and then now you're in the space like you said where you're like, well, I'm going through another growth spurt. There's certain things that are no longer serving me that I have to go through and take inventory of, right? And figure that out. So moving into the present. So this is interesting to me. These two cards that came up, because I pulled one that was a clarifier. So the card that I got in the present is the Page of Pentacles reversed. And then the clarifier I pulled is the Chariot reversed.
So what does a clarifier do?
It just gives me more information. So I kind of know like what like what direction it's speaking to. So that way, like
Okay.
so like to me, if I don't have like a pinpoint of, whoa, wait, what is that card speaking to? I'll pull a clarifier to kind of expand on
Okay,
like the direction of it.
cool.
Um, so this is super interesting to me. The page of Pentacles is what I like to call the purpose card. It's like finding the thing to commit to that just lights you up, that you love to do, that you can do all day long. You know, if like whether you got paid or not, you're just like, I love this. This is my thing. This is the thing that lights me up. Um, and it's reversed, which means on some level, it's like you know what the thing is, but you're not really fully committing all your time to it. It's like you like it, you want to do it more, but for some reason it's like orbiting you, but you're not fully like, okay, let's dive in. Let's fully do this. Let's fully integrate it. It's like you're aware of it, you like it, you want to bring it in more, but you're kind of like, maybe later. I don't, that's kind of what I'm getting. Like it's there and it's wanting to connect with you. And so it's interesting for the clarifier, the chariot, which is also reversed. This one, it's similar to the Ten of Swords, but energetically different. The Ten of Swords is more about belief systems, narratives, and those things that you're releasing. The Chariot is in itself is more about like actual taking action growth. It's about like physically taking up the space to own it, if that makes sense. So the narrative, I mean, the analogy I use for this is a crab. So you put a crab in a terrarium, it's not gonna grow. In fact, you could put a new shell in there, but it's only going to go in if it's the same size as the shell it's coming from, because it's not going to grow. It's confined. You take a crab in the ocean, now it's kind of like a snake in that eventually it's going to grow. It doesn't necessarily have to change shells though. It can stay in the one it's in and just be really cramped. And sometimes we choose that because it's comfortable. Sometimes we like the cramped shell because, hey, we've been in the shell for a few years now, and it's kind of like when you're in a home that you really like and you're like, this is cozy, yeah, this is good, but then eventually you might get to the point where it's just, you're just cramped. And so the invitation is you can stay in that cramped shell or you can go find a bigger one. But what happens when you find a bigger one is now you actually have to rise to the occasion and grow into it. And that part's scary for a lot of people because they don't, it's like, I don't know how to do that. Or what if I get into that shell and now I can't actually grow into it the way that I would need to. And now I'm out that shell and now I'm here with the big clunky shell. You know what I mean? Like there's different ideas of that. But um or another version of another story I like to share with this one is you have these two plants that are in a pot in a garden. And one plant is like, well, this is my home. This is where I'm gonna live. The other plant sees a tree that's out in the field. It's not even in a pot. And that plant's like, I want to be out in the field. I don't want to be in this pot anymore. And the other plant is like, well, what are you going to do? We're stuck in the pot. So the plant started growing. It grew so much that the gardener was like, oh, you need a bigger pot. Put it in the bigger pot. Kept growing. So eventually it got put out in the field because the pots couldn't house it anymore. But it has to be a choice to grow. And so it's interesting that this is the clarifier for the Page of Pentacles. Is it almost feels like whatever that thing is that you really love and that you feel drawn to, but in some way it's like on some layer, in some level you're playing small around it is kind of what's coming up. And it's kind of that fear of like leaving behind the shell that's comfortable to go into that shell where you're going to have to make up space and grow into it. And so there is resistance, and that could be even why you love that thing and you want to integrate it more, but that could be like mentally why you haven't fully said, okay, let's do it. And
Okay.
so it's interesting, I find that is because the present always ties into the theme, and the theme is also about growth, but it's about growth around the mind. So that tells me that likely there is some kind of a narrative or belief system around either taking up space or letting this thing fully into your life. And it could range from a lot of different reasons, but I do feel like there's a reason these two growth cards are like meshed together in the present, that you're kind of being called more to put more energy into that thing that you really love and that you want to, and to see where it takes you. But it is going to take an element of rising to the occasion and an element of growth to do that.
Now, because it's upside down, does that change anything?
So yeah, so the upside down, it comes in a couple different ways, and it just kind of depends on what I pick up from it. Most of the time, upside down is resistance. Sometimes it speaks to awareness. So it just kind of depends on what I'm feeling in that moment.
Not everyone wants to talk about their situation or life questions out loud, and that's okay. That's why my email tarot readings are a perfect fit for the inward seekers, the ones who feel deeply, process everything, and don't always have the words or the energy for a live session. Here's how it works. You send your question, I tune in, pull cards, and record a 17 to 25 minute voice message, channeling what comes through around your question and situation. You'll also receive a photo of the cards pulled, all delivered to your inbox within 24 hours. My intention is always to honor your journey with sincerity and heart-aligned guidance. If this feels like the kind of support you've been craving, let's connect. You can find me at the link below or at www.spiritjourneycollective.com.
Okay, so moving into the near future, which again, like I said, I don't believe is set in stone. This is just like a projection of what's to come as of now if nothing changes. Or
Mhm.
another way I've heard it described is it's kind of like the ghost of Christmas future in the Christmas Carol, because
Okay.
he sees in his projected future that he's dead and no one's there to see him. But then he comes back in the present and changes everything, which means when he eventually does die, he's not going to die alone like that, right? Because he took that projected future and was like, oh no, I'm going to change that. So it's that same idea. Like the future, it's just as of now, this is what to be mindful of, but it's not set in stone. And I really like the two of these that came up. I think it's definitely speaking to whatever it is that is mentally possibly holding you back from that purpose card. So the first one, the near future card, is the Nine of Wands reversed. And then the higher self message to that is the Tower. So the Nine of Wands reversed. This one is a don't give up card and a persevere card. And
Okay.
um like you got this card. It's letting you know, like, you see that destination you want to get to. Yeah, no, don't give up. It's still very much a possibility. Like there's nothing that says you can't do it. You can do it. You might just have to push yourself a little harder, but you got this. Um when it's reversed, and in general, one of the meanings of this too is also remembering to take breaks along the way too, because sometimes, especially when it's reversed, it's almost like this idea of like steamrolling your way there. And this one's like, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So if you have to camp for the night, that's okay. you know, it's not going to keep you from getting to your destination. Um, so that one, just as a whole, I feel like it's just letting you know that this journey of growth is like, yeah, no, you'll be fine. Just make sure you take care of yourself along the way and don't give up, and understand that there's some things that have got to go, because the Tower, which is the higher self message to that, this card often gets a bad reputation because it comes with chaos a lot of the times, not always, but it can. And so I like to compare this. Have you ever seen the movie Encanto by chance?
No.
Oh, okay. It's a great Disney movie. I know I'm such a mom, but that movie demonstrates the Tower perfectly. So I like to compare it, if your life were like a house. Basically, the Tower comes as an earthquake and your house falls down. And I think naturally we're like, oh, okay, we have to rebuild it. And we rebuild it. But we're not, a lot of the times we don't go to the foundational roots. We just build on top of what's already there. And the Tower is specifically speaking to the foundational roots. So if something is rotting in the roots of your house, it doesn't matter how many times you rebuild it, a bigger earthquake is going to come and knock it back down. And that's what the Tower is saying. And the thing about the Tower is it's almost like you no longer have a choice. You have a choice, but the longer you resist it, the bigger the earthquakes are going to get, and the bigger the chaos, and the bigger the destruction. And
Okay.
yeah, so that's kind of, so when the Tower comes up, it's more like a, what is rotting in the foundation that could be that. And I'd like to say this too, because this usually helps people kind of hone in on what it is. Every time you think you're getting ahead, it's that thing that kind of sneakily comes up and knocks you back down. And it's just, it could be, sometimes it's a person, sometimes it's an environment, sometimes it's just a really nagging limiting belief that hasn't been like removed yet. That's been there probably. Usually limiting beliefs have been there your whole life, and sometimes they're sneaky. Sometimes you don't even know they're there, and then you're like, wait a second, you know. But it's just showing that in the near future, and I feel like part of this is definitely speaking to what's like the beliefs that are holding you back from that thing that you really love to do and you want to do more of, if that makes sense. Like it's like all interconnected is what I'm feeling. Um, so the two cards in the middle, we have the Seven of Swords and the Seven of Cups. That's interesting. So the Seven of Cups, it's possible that you're still trying to figure out what that thing is that really lights you up. It's possible that it's just orbiting you and you're trying to decipher it, just because the Seven of Cups does usually speak to like trying different things and being more open to like, and so kind of what's coming to me from that is it's like I think you have the right field or like generality interest that you have. I think it's more like niching down. I think that that's what it's speaking to, is it's like you kind of know where you want to go, but you don't have like a specific like plug-in that fully is where you want to be entirely. So I feel like this is more about niche is kind of what I'm getting from that. But
Are you
this,
thinking this is more business or personal? What's your opinion?
I'm thinking it's a little bit of both. I definitely think possibly more business, because purpose doesn't always have to be business related, although a lot of us tend to put them together. Um, but I am kind of feeling like this is more business or entrepreneurial like endeavors. And then I think the personal side is like what needs to be removed to get there. So I do think that from what I'm seeing here, I do feel like this is more um, business slash like entrepreneurial related.
But there's something in my personal life that's holding me back.
Yeah, and that could just be beliefs too. I mean, you know what I mean? Like that could be, I mean, it could be a person or an environment. Like that could be an element of it.
Okay.
There's a lot of swords here, which also tells me there's a lot of mind stuff too, and more like
I'm very
yeah.
analytical, so
But yeah, so the Seven of Cups, it's kind of that one's all about like kind of test tasting or like trying different things. That way until you know which one. So like if it is, for instance, like niching down, try different niches. See which ones fit, see which ones really don't fit. You know what I mean? It's like kind of like just play with it a little bit.
just be referencing the past. The reason I'm asking is because when I developed like my medicinal ointment for dog pads, noses, and dry spots,
Hmm.
I went through multiple, like I didn't make a lot of recipes. I broke a lot of things down molecularly and
Hmm.
seeing what would bond and what would also be most beneficial to the application I'm applying it to.
Hmm.
And then I ended up making about 8 to 10 different recipes to see which one was the one.
I don't think so, just
Okay.
because there is a past card on the table, and usually everything else is a little bit more present related, minus the future card.
Well, I
Um,
use that as an example because I'm coming out with a different product and I'm going through the same process now.
okay.
And I'm kind of stuck.
Oh, well that, yeah, no, that actually explains a lot.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, in that regard, it could be the same idea that you're trying different things because you've already done that. So it could definitely be that same thing, like, hey, keep doing that. Like you might feel
Okay.
stuck, so now it's time to keep playing with what you have before you get to the right thing. Um, but yeah, this it tends to be more present. So it tends to be more like either invitations for what to do in the present or the energies you're in. So I would say this is more like a invitation to what to keep doing. And then the card next to it is the Seven of Swords. This one, it does tie a little bit into some of these other swords ones. The Seven of Swords usually comes with feelings of imposter syndrome to a point, like kind of like not feeling like you're enough or that you're inadequate or don't have everything you need in some capacity, which isn't true, but it's definitely this idea of I'm not measuring up in some capacity. And it's usually there's a element of comparing on some level. So that's here too, which could be part of what it's saying needs to be removed and outgrown. Um, it could also be when it comes to, because it's right next to the seven of cups. It could also be when it comes to trying different things. There could be maybe a part of you that's like, oh well, I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe like I don't have a degree, or like I don't know if it's something like that, because they're those two are side by side, so it could be like bouncing off of that, like feeling like when being stuck, like I don't know how to make this happen. I don't know how to really go from this to success. Kind of
Mhm.
like the other one was a I got lucky. You know what I mean? Like it could be something like that too, where it's not that's not true. I mean, you created that, but um it is with it being right next to the seven of cups. I do feel like it's speaking a little bit to like your mindset around trying to really niche down on what the thing is, and the
I
invitation
will.
is playing with it, and trying different things.
So to answer that statement, I've never thought like anything was a fluke because I put hard work into it,
Hmm.
but I am very often find myself in the thought pattern of, okay, I don't have a degree in this. I'm not a microbiologist. How am I able to mix this? Like, why do I understand this? Why am I able to break things down to the molecular level? And okay, I'm not like in my basement, beakers and such breaking them down. I'm looking online, the basic components, and breaking it down to basically molecularly to say, okay, this bonds with this. So if I put them together, it will create this and amplify this benefit. And then if I add this in, but I don't, I'm asking questioning myself because I don't know how I understand that.
Yeah. Okay, so what came to me while you were sharing that with me is these two cards. Well, actually, three cards just came up in my mind that's already here. So this one, the purpose card being reversed, that could be part of you not fully embracing it, as like the work that you're doing in this could very does it is it something that you really really enjoy when you kind of get to be that investigator and play with it and kind of figure out like, oh, if I do this, this happens, and that,
Oh,
like,
I
does
love the
that kind of,
process.
well, you love the process?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and then with the chariot reversed, taking up space and rising to the occasion, both of them reversed, I'm wondering if some of that is those beliefs of, well, I didn't go to school for this. Who, like, why am I, like, what makes me credible in what I'm doing? Obviously, the answer is the fact that so many people are happy with the product and so many people are wanting more. Like, that's your validation of, oh well, I don't really know where this is coming from, but obviously it's working and it's making a difference. And so
Mhm.
I feel like that's the belief system that, wow, like it's just, it's funny when I get certain pieces, it's like, oh, all the pieces are coming together. It, like, that's the belief system, I think, is that this idea that you don't understand how it works, so you don't want to fully claim it.
Mhm.
And that's where the rising to the occasion would be, and the mental growth. You're growing whether you want to or not. Like that's what's happening. And so it's just this idea of like owning it and saying like, okay, I don't really know why this lights me up, and I love the process, and it seems to all come together at the end, but it does. And I think
Mhm.
that that's, so that when it comes to purpose, the way that I believe purpose is it's when you're plugged into something that's bigger than you, in a sense. And I know for you it's more like the collective consciousness, right? Like that's your belief, is that you're plugged, but you're, again, it's like coming from somewhere else. It's not coming directly from you. You're just kind of the vessel. It's that same idea, but you also have to own the part that you're the vessel.
Well, I also believe that like I start the process and through that, the information to figure it out is funneled through me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly how it is with my ratings. I cannot tell you, like, even before I read for you, initially, like, I'll look and I'll glance and I'll be like, God, I don't even know where to begin. Like, I can't tell you how many times I do that. Sometimes I
Mhm.
pull up the cards and I'm like, oh, I know where this is going. And I don't have to, but most of the time I'll look and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna start talking. And then it just unfolds, and I really do believe it's because something else, I'm choosing to be that channel for the person that's asking with that intention. I'm having that intention of just being that channel, and then it just unfolds, and I don't even know how it works, and it sounds like a similar process even though it's a totally different product and thing that you're putting out, it's that same thing where you're almost surrendering to something else. You're first making the connection with the intention, and then everything else just kind of opens up.
Mhm. Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. So, is this your first tarot reading?
Yes.
Okay. What are your thoughts?
It's cool. I'm enjoying the process.
Okay. Awesome. So that was everything that came through, and I do feel like, yeah. So I do feel like it is business related, especially usually when the purpose card's on the table. Like I said, I don't always like to attribute it to business just because everyone's different, but most of the time it is because the page of pentacles is so it's a little small lesson with tarot. Every suit has a different element attached to it. So pentacles is earth. And so pentacles is a lot of the times it has to do with money or tangible things you could touch.
Okay.
And so pentacles often does come with money on some degree, usually, which is career, business, like all that's kind of in the tangible realm.
Mhm.
Swords, which is what came up a lot for you too, is air, the mind. So it's and then cups is water, emotions, and then wands, which had a little bit of wands in there. Wands is like the passion, the creativity, um the action piece. So they
Mhm.
all have different pieces, but usually the page of pentacles is speaking to some kind of a business career thing. And that's what I was getting from this, was that it was a lot of kind of holding yourself back in and not fully like claiming what you love to do. And so, yeah.
So can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
Okay, so from the other interviews or readings that I've watched,
Mhm.
nobody else has asked you this. So I'm going to ask you,
Okay.
could you put my reading into a few sentence paragraph on what you think the overall story of it is?
Yeah. No, absolutely. So I would say the overall story is, like I said before, with the purpose card, I think a lot of it is learning how to claim what you love to do and own it in a way where you're not trying to like understand it and dissect it.
Mhm.
So I think the understanding and dissecting it is where your mind is going, well, I don't understand why this is working, which isn't fully like kind of almost like making you push. What I'm feeling is it's almost like it's pushing you fully owning your purpose. Like it's there, you love it, but you're like, I'm going to keep you over there because I don't understand you. And I feel like a lot of the growth is around opening your mind to letting that in, into taking up the space, into owning it completely. Because that's a lot of what I'm seeing. I mean, the only other thing that's a little off is the Seven of Cups, but I feel like this was thrown in there for you because you feeling stuck. It's like, hey, remember this worked last time. I feel like that's what that piece was for, because everything else here is all about releasing things that don't serve you, growth, and pushing forward and changing your
Yeah.
beliefs. So I don't know if that was one paragraph.
It perfectly explains a lot. It tells me that don't worry about why you can do it, just accept that you can do it.
Right, exactly. And there's a big part of when you fully embrace your purpose, you're fully committed to it, and there's no like separation anymore. You're not like, you're able to just be like embody it basically. Like, I am good at making these particular products. I don't know how, but the how doesn't matter because the success and validation speaks for itself. And I love doing it because
Mhm.
my definition of purpose is that it's something that lights you up. You love it. You could do it all day long, kind of a thing, and it gives back to the world in some way. And that's exactly what your product is doing.
Mhm. I love that I can help animals. I think it's so cool.
Yeah. And
I've
you even
I
mentioned some people are using it too.
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of animals up until we got Tobias, our pup,
Mhm.
and but once we got him, everything totally changed. 100%. I always put forth the opinion that animals, because they don't live longer with us, are just pain because you
Mhm.
lose them too early. You get attached and then they're taken away from you. But now I've seen them more as growth channels and companions.
Yeah.
And if I can help make somebody else's animal's life that much easier, that means they can take more time just enjoying the relationship they have with their animal. They don't have to worry about that shit.
Yeah. Well, I love that. Well, you definitely have to let me know when it's in the US so I can share about it on my page. So yeah, well, thank you so much for joining me and for being open to a reading. And yeah, this has been great.
Thank you very much for the reading. This was, as I said earlier, my first experience, and it's quite enjoyable. Yeah, it would be interesting to do it in like 6 to 8 months again and see if something's changed or
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, it's funny because sometimes, oh my gosh, I'm going on a tangent, so I'm going to make this quick because this episode's already longer than it should be. But I can't tell you how many times people will come to me for a reading. Maybe it's the first time they're seeing me, but they'll say, "Oh, I saw a psychic, or I saw a tarot reader, or I saw someone 6 months ago or a year ago, and they said the exact same thing."
Mhm.
And that's just for them, like, hey, there's something here that you haven't done anything with. So we're just going to bring it back around. You know what I mean? Because, like you mentioned, and I fully believe this, we have the collective consciousness. We're all connected on some level. So it would make sense that what comes up is something that's already come up before, if it hasn't changed yet, that needs to be changed.
Yep.
So,
So take action, actually do something.
and everyone has their own journey too. Like, no judgment. Sometimes it takes people several times to learn, and that's part of their journey too. Everyone has their own pace. So,
Well, and judgment belongs in the courtroom and labels belong on products.
right. Right. I love that.
All right. Thank you very much. And I look forward to next time.
Thank you for joining me on another inspiring episode. Remember, your purpose is a unique and unfolding path. I hope these conversations have ignited a spark within you. Until next time, keep exploring, growing, and embracing the beautiful adventure of connecting with your purpose. Stay tuned for more meaningful conversations. If you're wanting more, consider joining our free Facebook community called Spirit Journey Collective, your haven for spiritual exploration and personal growth. Dive into a supportive community where sharing spiritual experiences is encouraged. Unlock the power of intuition, embark on a journey of self-discovery, and connect with like-minded souls. If this sounds like a community you'd love to plug into, the link is in the show notes below. If you enjoyed the episode today, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And thank you for joining me on this journey.